Welcome to today's webinar from Gravity Payments. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Bobby Powers. I'm the head of learning and development at Gravity, and we're thrilled to have you join us for this webinar, How to Grow Your Outdoor Power Equipment or Marina Business Through Diversification. It's my chance to introduce our speaker today, Tim Berman. A little bit of background about Tim. Tim is a passionate entrepreneur who loves the equipment industry and brick and mortar small business in general. Tim grew up in the family tractor dealership, Big Red's Equipment Sales, and worked with his father, Jody, to build it from a two-man startup to a thriving two-location dealership. As a step toward retirement for Tim's father, they sold both locations in 2019, allowing Jody to slow down and freeing Tim up to pursue his passion for software and digital marketing. Tim is currently working to develop new apps that help outdoor power equipment dealers grow. And before we hand it over to Tim, one logistical note for today's webinar. You'll notice that within your Zoom panel, the very bottom of the panel, there's a button there that says Q&A. And at any point during Tim's talk, you can click that button, type in a question that you'd like answered by Tim at the end of the session, and we'll handle all those questions at the end after Tim gets through his presentation. So again, submit a question at any point in time. We'll deal with the questions at the end. And welcome, Tim. Glad to have you join us today.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here. And thanks to everybody for joining. As Bobby said, I grew up in retail, grew up in a small business, and so when we first started, I did everything from checking out the customers to putting stuff together to delivering and a number of different things. So I worked in back stock room, shipping, receiving. I tried to do as little bit of repairing as possible because that definitely was for people smarter than me. I was involved in a number of different parts of the business as we built it, and we got people to do different things. And so excited to talk about some things that we incorporated, some things that we learned along the way, some lessons that we learned sometimes from doing things the wrong way. And so there should be nuggets in here for you, whether you're a startup, whether you've been in business for 5, 10, 20 years, whether you're a 6-figure business or a 7 or 8-figure business. There should be some nuggets for you to take away. We're going to try to have something for everyone in here. Let me see. I'm going to need to share my screen, so pardon the logistics. All right. That should be, Bobby, is that painting?
Yeah, that looks good.
Perfect. So I come with a dealership background and a dealership mindset. It's what I've done basically my entire professional life. I thought I closed Microsoft Teams, so sorry about that. And so as we grew the business, we realized that we needed to streamline some things, and so we added various types of software, whether that was for accounting, point of sale, and different things like that. And we added eventually a dealership management system that gave us the ability to see into what's going on in the shop and what's going on in with our warranties and different things like that. And so I was a Constellation software customer, a C-System software customer for 10 years, and now I'm working with the company. But that's enough about me and my company. I want to talk about, one of the things that Constellation brought me in to do was to work with dealers of all types, and with C-Systems, with Ideal, with Charter Software, Target CRM is our new CRM product that I'm working with. Across these platforms, we've got dealers that are in marine. We've got marinas using it. We've got hardware stores, and we've got tractor dealers. And so, I'm working with lawn equipment dealers, over 3,000 dealers of varying shapes and sizes. Some with one location and 2 or 3 or 4 employees, some with 10+ locations, and so all different sizes, all different types of businesses, all different product mixes. And because of that, we see different things that are working for different dealers, and we look at data analytics, across our dealer network to go, what's working right now. So we'll share a little bit about that as we go. And also just a housekeeping thing too. I'm a big believer in pretty clean PowerPoint slides, so I'm not going to have many slides or a lot of information on the slides. But if I name drop a product or a service or a brand, and I'm going to mention some that I used or have been aware of, that they're not necessarily partners of Gravity or Constellation Software. Do your own research, vet it, make sure it's something that works for you. But I'm going to do a resource roundup email at the end if that's something that you want. That way, that will be there for you to do your research with later. So I'm talking with a lot of dealers, just kind of seeing how are things. It's a weird time, right? The whole COVID-19 thing, and it's challenging. Some businesses are down a lot and just treading water. Some have managed to pretty well break even. Some actually have gained, and there's some lessons in there for all of us. But I'm seeing primarily two different kinds of dealers. I'm going to bring out my nerdy side here. I'm a Lord of the Rings fan. I always have been. And my wife and I, of course, during the whole quarantine thing, have done probably like some of you who have dealt with the quarantine, and that is you watched a lot more Netflix or Disney Plus or whatever. And so we went through all the Lord of the Rings movies. But from the third Lord of the Rings movie, you may recognize these guys on the left here. We've got Denethor, and he was the steward of Gondor, this great city that was about to be overrun. And then here we've got Aragorn, who's basically vying for the throne of Gondor, but this guy's kind of taken over the city right now, and he's very, very defeated. I'm seeing dealers that are a lot like Denethor, and I'm seeing dealers that are a lot like Aragorn here. Both are facing innumerable odds, and one has given up, and one is going to fight tooth and nail to survive. And Aragorn is, you can see the determination in his face. Nothing's going to come between him and victory if he can help it. And when, especially with dealership principals, with store managers, general managers, the mindset sets the tone for the culture. And if you are visibly feeling defeated, if you're downtrodden, it's going to show and it's going to trickle down. And conversely, if you're determined, if you're positive, even if the financials may not look good, or you had a bad month, or whatever, your determination also is contagious. And so I want to encourage you, be positive, be proactive. We're going to give you some strategies today. Hopefully there will be a nugget or two or more that will be something that you can take back, and maybe a tool that you can use to pivot. So some businesses are in a recovery phase, right? The trough of COVID-19 is more or less behind them. Some businesses are still in that dip. We're seeing, for sure, power sports and marine businesses, that's discretionary types of products. People are choosing to spend some of their money on other types of products. And that led to this whole idea when I was talking with Gravity about, what do businesses need right now? What do they need to be thinking about? What's a strategy to put to maybe pivot and get back to growth mode? I'm seeing a lot of businesses across our dealer network that are not diverse, and even just in my community in general. We have a lot of mom and pop businesses here in Granbury, Texas, and great businesses, and and some are gone. They put all their eggs in one basket, and so you'll hear me mention that cliche, but sometimes cliches, they became cliched for a reason, and I think in this case, we've seen a lot of businesses put their eggs in one basket. And what I mean by that is not just in products, but just in general. They kind of have done the same thing maybe for a long time, and it's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing and expecting different results. So, but one of the fastest things that businesses can do, one of the and sometimes simplest levers, is diversifying the product offering. And I'll give you some examples. So, so I see some small businesses sometimes, I see this a lot with lawnmower shops. They've got 7 lines of zero-turn mowers, and all of them are great lines. So when I see that, that's a type of diversification, but it's not of the product type, it's of the brand. And there's some advantages for having multiple lines of zero-turn mowers. So I'm not throwing rocks to throw rocks, but what if you have a drought year and that happens to be where 90% of your revenue comes from? Okay, that's a form of putting all your eggs in one basket. And so something to think about. Now, zero-turn mowers happen to be selling, fairly well right now. We're measuring. We've got a COVID report where we're measuring what's happening in across our dealer network from week to week, and we're seeing, we've seen some growth over last year, a week or two, and we've seen some dips. So it's kind of bouncing. And if you watch something like that, it's like watching the stock market. It'll kind of drive you crazy, but it's important to know what's going on. And in this case, this is not as far removed from us as the stock market may seem. This is what's happening right now with consumer buying behavior. So, it's yet to be seen, is this going to be a drought year or not? You never know that with the turf business, but that happens. And every time there's a drought year and businesses are primarily carrying turf products and not much else, well, what are you going to sell if people aren't mowing? And so a lot of, there's a traditional business model for outdoor power equipment dealers, as we refer to like lawnmower shops, is they're selling lawnmowers, maybe they're selling weed eaters and chainsaws, trimmers and chainsaws. They may be selling, they've got a parts counter where they're selling replacement parts and air filters and things like that. And they've got a repair shop where they're working on the stuff when it breaks, under warranty or outside of warranty, and they're tuning it up and they're maintaining it and that kind of thing. And that's what we did in my business, and some have an e-commerce store where they're selling parts and accessories and things online. So, 4 different types of profit centers, that's a type of diversification. But if it's primarily focused on just the turf industry, and again, you have a drought year, that's tough. Now, when in the day and age of digital marketing, you can cast a little wider net if your manufacturers will allow that. You can market a little farther out. Same thing with the e-commerce store. Maybe it's not a drought year, 50 or 75 miles away, or advertising farther than that, right? So, but in the same light, we're seeing power sports dealers. Those are your motorcycle shops, your ATV, side-by-side UTV shops. They may have several different types of power sports products, personal watercraft, boats, so different things like that. So they may be power sports or power sports marine or whatever. And this is a tough time to be in the power sports business, because a lot of those products tend to be discretionary. People view them more as toys, not as necessities. And so they have to have disposable income. And if they don't have enough disposable income for some of this other stuff, or if they don't have disposable income, they're going to spend the money on the things that they deem necessary. And so one type of diversification could be, well, maybe most of my revenue right now is set up to come from discretionary products. What are some non-discretionary products that I could carry? During this whole COVID thing, we've seen, governments, local, state, national, federal, have, have classified businesses as essential or non-essential, and kind of along those lines. So that's been kind of gray, and probably, a lot of retailers have said, well, hey, this is essential for X, Y, Z, but the government didn't see it that way. And, and it is what it is. But you think about am I selling products that are mostly considered essential or non-essential? So ATVs, UTVs may or may not be, the most essential types of products. What is something that I could maybe pivot to or bring in alongside the products that I have that would be a revenue stream, especially in, say, a downturn? A discretionary, a non-discretionary product might be a zero-turn mower line, or it could be a utility trailer line. You see people pulling trailers for all kinds of things. The economy doesn't have to be strong for people to need to move. People use trailers to move. People rent stuff and they buy stuff. Rental is an opportunity as well. If you're a marina and your primary business is renting slips, maybe selling apparel, maybe selling sunglasses and different types of products. Look at what is the product mix, and is it primarily discretionary? Is there a way? Do I have the means to bring in something alongside these products I already have that might sell during a tough time, like right now? And so a few things come to mind, and we've got a marina here that's really cool. They haven't really diversified outside of discretionary, but they did diversify. They didn't have all their eggs in just like one thing or another. They've got a restaurant with outdoor seating and indoor seating. That, by the way, is I think what's primarily kept them afloat during this, because they've got amazing tacos. They're selling fuel. They've got a kayak store. They've got apparel. They've got sunglasses. They've got a ton of different things that they do, and and their space is limited. I imagine they probably want to try some different things, but they've got a real estate constraint, and sometimes that's a challenge for diversification. If you're going to think about, if I'm going to bring in something else, and I'm going to tend to speak toward dealership as a possibility for you in a marina business. I'll give you some considerations for if you were going to consider something from outdoor power equipment. Here's some of the things you want to think about. So, as you're thinking about, bringing in a product, probably the first thing you may think about is, do I have space for it? And in the case of outdoor power equipment, these are products that may take up 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 square feet, or, if it's a really big zero-turn radius mower, maybe a little bit more than that. Do you have room inside or in a covered area under an awning? Or do you have, yard space? I see some dealers where they'll pull stuff out and kind of set them up in a row along the road, or in some sort of an inviting place for people they hop out of their car and go sit on a mower. And then maybe they pull them back inside a warehouse at night. Zero-turn mowers are something that grass has to, as long as grass is growing, it has to be mowed, especially if you're in a city, especially, if you're in an area where there's a number of neighborhoods with homeowners associations, which just seems to be the norm now. If you don't mow your own lawn or have it hired out, your HOA will mow it for you and give you a bill that's like triple the price of you doing it yourself. So people get the lawn mowed. And even if there wasn't an HOA, between bugs and pests and, rodents and things like that, they keep the grass mowed. So mowers have been kind of a staple, non-discretionary product, and businesses are run by them, right? Cities and governments buy them because they're going to keep the place mowed as much as possible. Lawn care operations run them, right? So zero-turn radius mowers are a great option, but they take space. They've got to be secured. They can be stolen. People do steal them. There's a black market for them, right? Compact tractors, same thing. They are larger, right? And so space is a concern, not just for merchandising, but for warehousing them too. And if you have a space constraint, of course, you don't necessarily have to keep everything on the same piece of real estate. So some folks will have overstock in a warehouse up the road. So that does introduce a little bit of logistical stuff. If you sold the one here, now I've got to go pick it up and bring it. So there's some challenges related to that, But the upside is if you have the space for it, it's that they're very engaging, where a lot of products that are primarily sold indoors, people driving by don't necessarily know what you have. When you have a line of, bright orange or bright red mowers sitting out front, it's very eye-catching, and people just want to go sit on the seat, especially, as plush as they are these days. So space is a consideration. Capital is another one. If I'm going to set up with a mower company or a tractor company or whatever, am I going to write a check for $100,000 or $200,000 for that initial stock order or whatever it is they're asking about? Well, most companies don't. They're going to do what's called a floor plan, and the different mower companies have got, just like in power sports, just like in marine boat dealers. These companies are going to go to like Wells Fargo or North Point Commercial Finance, or TCF Inventory Finance. Some work with more local partners. I've seen some newer entrants, and there are others in other spaces. I know the outdoor power ones because we work with them well. Some of the companies, Toro and Exmark, who are a couple of the top brands in outdoor power equipment, they have their own. It's called a captive finance, red iron acceptance. So, but a floor plan line of credit, you submit your financials. They say, hey, we're going to give you a $200,000 or $300,000 or $500,000 line, or we're going to give you a $2 million line. Depends on how, what your financials look like. And then what you order goes on that line, interest free for a certain period. And so you want to, you order enough so it looks like you're in business, but not so much that you're stuck with it at the end of the season and paying interest on it and that kind of thing. And that way you don't tie up your capital. Floor plan is what, that's what dealership runs on. It's what your car dealers use. It's what your boat dealers use. Power sports dealers will use that. And when you sell it, you pay it, that kind of thing. So space is a consideration. Capital is a consideration. I mentioned security already. A couple of different things. If you're in, outdoor power equipment and you primarily are carrying, turf lines and things that require grass to grow, think about something that doesn't require grass to grow. If you're not carrying trailers, trailer is a great thing to offer, both from a rental standpoint, because a lot of times your customers are going to buy a product and they don't have a way to get it home. So there's an opportunity to sell them another $1,000, $2,000, $4,000 trailer, right? Compact tractor was something that we found sold even when grass wasn't growing, though people mowed with them, right? So diversifying your products is something that you can do to shore up your business and to keep revenue coming in even when things are tough in one of in one of the industries. It's a fairly rare thing for all industries to be down equally. They can, in a downturn, maybe people don't buy as deep or as a high end of a product, but people have a tendency when it comes to non-discretionary products, they're going to buy them even when things are a little bit off in the economy. I want to talk for a couple of minutes about diversifying your marketing. So maybe you're good on the product mix, but maybe you're not getting the leads in that you want. Maybe you don't get web leads in. Maybe you're doing marketing, you're spending money on marketing, and you're not really sure what kind of results you're getting. There are some levers that you can pull there for sure. There's a world of things. If you're primarily doing offline marketing, and that is, I'm located in a great spot in town, people drive by all the time, I send direct mail to customers, or I do a bunch of billboards. I'm working events, the county fair, back when things open up again, right? If you put a lot of eggs in the event basket, those aren't happening right now. It's tough, right? If you're primarily working with offline methods of exposure, add digital marketing into the mix. Do you have a website? Okay, that may seem basic, but still, surveys that I've seen say a third of dealers don't have a website. It's super important to have it. And not just a page that's got your phone number on it, but all of your products, all of your pricing. Consumers, 90% plus of consumers, and maybe more than that now during this whole COVID thing, they're going online. They want to know who carries this thing that I want, how much is it, and where are they at, and if I have questions about it, how do I ask somebody questions about it, right? So you want to have a website with products, not a link to your OEM, who has a dealer locator who's going to send the customer somewhere else probably, but your product's on your site and a way for consumers to engage you on that site. If you're primarily doing interruption type of marketing, like, billboards, display ads that just kind of go to everybody in a certain area, regardless of whether or not they're potential customers, TV commercials that are just, they are going to show to people who are never going to potentially buy to you, as well as some who will buy from you. Consider doing intent marketing, and that is be where the customers who are in the market are shopping. What are they going to do? They're going to go to Google. They're going to search. And if your site doesn't rank there organically, you buy that spot. That's Google ads, right? You're buying that first or second spot. Search engine marketing. There's companies, I'm going to drop a couple of names of companies I haven't worked with, but I know dealers that do. True Radius Marketing is one that that they'll work with you and do display advertising and search engine marketing based on actual consumer behavior. Also, Team SI is another one in the industry. These are companies that are people from the industry that specialize in this industry. And some of the website providers too will do some search engine marketing as well. And by the way, on website, if you're not sure of a good website provider, a lot of the industry is using ARI websites, or they're using Dealer Spike websites, and those are under the same roof, same ownership, but they are two separate companies. Those are good resources. And there's also there are some others up and coming, and True Radius Marketing now has a website product that's worth checking out. So so I encourage you to think about diversifying your marketing and how you're getting in front of customers. Be where, if you're not already doing intent marketing, the bang for the buck is there. A lot of it tends to be pay for play. They have what they call cost per click. You're only paying for it if they click your ad. That's kind of nice, because billboards, you're paying for it whether or not anybody buys or does anything, right? The third thing I want to think about is diversifying your communication. And what I mean by that is you get these customers coming on your website, or maybe they're not even online shopping at all. Retailers of yesteryear, if you wanted to know if they were open and what their store hours were or how much something was, you had to go there or you had to call, and that was it. Customers, and especially right now, and especially in some of the hot zones and all of that, where people are like, I don't know if I'm going to get sick or whatever, and if they're in a high risk group, that kind of thing, they want to find out maybe, without calling you and without coming in, well, what options do they have, right? And so business texting is all the rage now, and it's not. I don't believe this is something that's going to come and go. I don't believe this is a fad. Because it makes it easy to do business with retailers. And this is true whether you're a dealer. This is true whether you're you're a Marina. This is true whether you're just a brick and mortar retailer in general. If you're not easy to shop with, people will go where it's easy. They take the path of least resistance. And so texting it's in. And it's easy for people, especially if there's a button on your website. If they don't have to wait on hold, if they don't have to play phone tag, if they don't have to leave voicemails, and if some people, they don't like to talk to a salesperson, they don't know that maybe you've trained your salespeople to be very friendly and helpful and take a consultative approach. They may be worried they're going to be like the stereotypical used car salesman. So, if they can text you, it's kind of a low commitment way for them to just ask you for what they want. And the upside for you is you can pretty quickly figure out who's serious and who's not without wasting a lot of time with small talk too. And the idea is not that you're going to do all your selling over text, whether that's selling parts or selling service or selling anything, but it's how can I be easy to reach? And then how do I use this channel to get people the next rung of the ladder, so to speak, whether that's to a phone call, whether that's to come in the store or something else. So there's a guy in the digital marketing industry named David Cancel, And David Cancel does conversational marketing, and he's got a chat tool that I've seen that's really popular in some other industries. And but he said something that has really stuck with me. He says, the one who gets closest to the customer wins. The one who gets closest to the customer wins. And the only way that you can do that now, because a lot of retailers are getting onto this text and digital messaging bandwagon, you've got to be as closer than them. You want to be texting, texting customers order updates, texting customers for service authorizations in your repair shop. Texting, if customers are asking you, for a quote, maybe you end up texting that quote to them. The cool thing is, if they text you, you have their phone number, and so you can follow up with them. But I'll just tell you, when we texted in my dealership, we added a button on our website, text us now, and it was a way, if they were on a cell phone, they could just click it and they were texting us. What we found was we would have 200, 250 text conversations a month in our peak season, and many of those led to big ticket sales, and I'm talking $5, $10, $20, $50,000 types of sales, because it was easy for them to reach us. They didn't have to fill out a form and wait for someone to get back with me. So not everybody wants to text, right? Some people are going to want to call and come in. So don't force them down that path. Give them an option and make it easy for them, right? So texting is a really powerful lever that you can pull, that makes it easy for people to shop with you, that gives people a positive customer experience. And so I want to recommend, adding that to the arsenal. Some are doing live chat. I'm seeing that with varying success. The thing that's great about text is it's mobile first, and that's where more than 2/3 of web traffic is now. And people are going online, they're looking at your reviews, they're looking at your products and all of that on their phones. So you want to be there and reachable for them. That's all I've got on these 3 diversification ideas. And Bobby, I think, is going to facilitate Q&A if you have any questions. Bobby?
Yeah, for sure. So we've had a couple of questions come in, and we'll get to those in just a second. So if you do have any questions, feel free to submit those using the Q&A function at the bottom. Before we get to those, Tim, I have one question for you. So Gravity works with almost 20,000 different businesses across all different spaces, and we concentrate a lot in OPE and Marina, just like you do. One of the things we've been hearing from clients is that online presence is more important now than ever. And I know you talked a little bit about that. Could you maybe share 1 or 2 specific different social media strategies or online strategies that you've seen have been effective?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what we ended up doing, our strategy in my business, and we grew it from a startup to a $17 million 2-store business. And at every stage of it, we were learning. We did a lot of things wrong. We spent a lot of money on the wrong types of marketing and a lot of other things. What we ended up refining the marketing machine to was, in terms of digital marketing, it's how do we get people onto our website? Yeah, if people want to just drive in, and some people did, they would literally drive from sometimes states away to come buy something and take it home with them. Great, whatever. That's not necessarily the easiest path, but we said, how do we use our search engine marketing? How do we use display ads? How do we use any of these different types of marketing that we're doing to get people onto our site where they can see what we carry, how much it is, if it's available, if it's something used, especially, is it available or not? And then how do we make it easy for them to ask questions about it, if they wanted to get a certain quote or different things like that. And so, we had a Dealer Spike website. You can get it one of those sites if you don't have a website that has all your inventory on it and things like that. A Dealer Spike site, they're like $400 and something a month, something like that. So not super cheap, but if you're carrying a big ticket product, if you're carrying products, especially serialized products like mowers, like UTVs, like trailers or tractors, things like that, even guns, that's a good platform. The ARI, its little sister, is a good inventory type platform where you can have all of that stuff on there. And once you have the site, that's like the blank canvas. And so your inventory is something powerful you can put on there. The other thing that you can leverage that space for, and you own that space when it's your website, so you can decide what goes on there and what doesn't. something that we did with the website and also with social media is social proof. And that is, probably, basically everybody who goes online to learn about, where they can buy a certain product, or if they should buy a certain product, if it's a brand they've never heard of before, or a type of product they've never bought before, one of the first things people do is they look for social proof. That is reviews. Who's bought this? Or in some cases, they go to Facebook groups. So I happened to start a few years ago a Bad Boy Mowers owners group. And it's not a pitch fest in there. It's literally just a community for people who own Bad Boy Mowers to talk about their Bad Boy Mowers and what they like and don't like, and how they put this cool exhaust tip on there and all of that. And there are a bunch of dealers in there, and we don't allow pitching or selling in there. It's just for people to if dealers want to go in there, they can observe the customer in his or her natural habitat, but they can learn what are the problems people have or the questions that they ask. And what I'm finding is the vast majority of people that own that group are not buyers yet, or not owners yet. They're buyers. They're in the market. Because I have automated questions that Facebook asks them when they go to join. So people are going to social media for social proof. They want to hear not from you, because you're biased. Your product's the best in the world. Even if your salespeople are really good about, being as impartial as possible, in the customer's mind, you're biased. So social proof is super important. You want to maintain your reviews on your business. Something I'm not seeing in the power equipment space and needs to happen is some dealers are starting to do this, is actually put product reviews on those products. That's what people go to Amazon for, and Home Depot and Lowe's sites, because they do have product reviews. So they can say, hey, I've got, this Hustler Raptor 52 with the Kawasaki has 4.5 stars. And I just made up an example, but they're going to look at that and go, okay, well then it's probably pretty good. I think I may buy that. So if they can't find that, then the next best thing they're going to do is try to hear from other people. So they may go to a Hustler Mower owners group, right? So the other thing that we did with social media, so we did communities like that. Those Facebook groups are free, and you can start one or maybe participate in one. But the other thing we did was we focused a lot on our online reviews, and we made sure that those were auto-shared to our Facebook page. So our Facebook page was not lots of stuff about us and videos of our product. So there's a good case for content marketing where you're educating customers about products on your social media page. What we felt like the best strategy was for us is, let's use our social media as a place for social proof, where our Google reviews and Facebook reviews and any other types of reviews that we collected through surveying our customers. And we had set up auto text surveys to happen off of a transaction. So someone buys something, they get a text later asking them how the purchase was, and it asks to leave a review. And so we would get anywhere from 5 to 10 reviews a week, or sometimes more than that during our busy season. And those we had auto posted onto our Facebook page. So then if people went onto our Facebook page, they would hear from not us about us, from our customers about us. And I felt like that was a lot more effective. We had widgets on our website that showed the star rating. So we felt like if people are coming to our website, they don't want to hear us talking about us. Let's let them hear from other shoppers, and then let them decide whether we're worth doing business with, or whether the products we're carrying are worth buying.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Tim. And we actually had one more question come in as you were talking. That's kind of a follow-up on that. Do you have any advice on employing social media, whether it's organic or paid social advertising, either one?
Yeah, and I know some folks that really like to do boosted posts, and are seeing some success from that. If you share videos to your Facebook page, Facebook has what's called a pixel. You may be familiar with that, where for a year after that, or until the person clears their browser cookies, which a lot of people just don't ever do, they can be in what Facebook calls a custom audience. And so you can, in your Facebook Business Manager, you can say, hey, I want everybody who meets this criteria, everybody who's watched this Gravely Mower video, or everybody who's watched this Cub Cadet UTV video, or whatever, to then you can decide what you want them to see. Do you want them to see ads then? By watching that video, or are they showing buying intent? Possibly. They may be interested in learning about that. So maybe you retarget them with that product. What I've seen in the e-commerce space is a lot more success in retargeting, that is showing display ads to people after they've done some sort of a buying behavior type thing, like they visit a product page on your site or whatever, where they see the ad for the thing they looked at. And I don't see a lot of dealers doing that in our space because it's not easy, but there are some of those ads vendors I talked about, I think are able to set that up. And what that requires is a pixel, the Facebook pixel. They give you that for free. Facebook does. You can have that embedded on your site, and it goes across all your product pages if it's set up right. So no matter what they've looked at, Facebook is keeping track of what they looked at, and then you can put together ads for people who have looked at those types of products. And so if it's dynamic product ads, that's retargeting them with the products that they looked at until they buy, or until their behavior says, hey, I'm not really in the market after all, as in like they don't click the ads, and those need to stop. That's one strategy. So dynamic product ads is really powerful for retargeting. And then getting people pixeled. So don't share your manufacturer's video that they posted on their page. Go to Google Chrome extension store and get you a Facebook video downloader or a YouTube video downloader. Download those videos, or if you're OEM, most of them, if you ask them, they'll give you a flash drive with them or a link to download them. But if they don't, you can download those off of there and post those up as if you created that video, because then they're pixeled on your Facebook account, and you can decide what ads to show them, how much you want to spend on that, and that kind of thing. Those are a couple of powerful things you can do with social media. And the other thing I want to say with social media is, if you're interested in selling stuff, mowers, tractors, trailers, your trade-ins, used stuff, boats, any of that stuff, any type of products, Facebook Marketplace is awesome. And there are tools out there, Auction 123. Again, I'm going to give you these in a resource roundup later if you want it. I'll give you my email address here in a little bit. Lot Vantage, Auto Revo, there's a few of them. I can't remember if Auto Revo does Facebook Marketplace, but I think they do. These tools, for a couple $100 a month, they'll hook up to your website and auto feed over whatever you want posted on Facebook Marketplace with the pricing that you already set and the pictures that you've already taken and the descriptions you've already written, so you don't have to sit there and copy and paste a whole bunch. That's a really powerful way to put your products out there. A couple $100 a month. So, if you think you're only going to sell one, $500 item, maybe that's not a good business decision. But I know dealers who are selling millions on Facebook Marketplace. And these same tools will also post to Craigslist or eBay. And Craigslist is a place where I've personally sold millions of dollars in tractors and mowers through there, and not selling outside of my area. You can target your local area, and Facebook Marketplace is 100 miles or closer, so it's very, very local.
Great, thanks, Tim. And then we got a comment that came in from Tommy. He says, this is Russell Marine, and we have added SSV and ATV products this year, having great success selling the Can-Ams. So wanted to make sure I mentioned that. Does that line up with anything that you've experienced, Tim?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Can-Am is just on fire, period. Polaris dominated here in North Texas, and Polaris is a great product. But what I've been seeing is, especially the Defenders, when those came out, that side-by-side UTV, they have just really taken over in the farm and ranch community. And by the way, it seems that, and I haven't looked at it like a report to back this up. From what I can tell, people tend to buy UTVs and use them as workhorses. That tends to be a little less discretionary of a product than maybe a motorcycle. So the Defenders, I'm seeing them everywhere around here, and Can-Am was a great line choice. One of the things I forgot to mention that's really important is that if you're thinking about bringing in a product line, think about, do I work with one of these new brands that just entered the market, or do I work with somebody who's an established brand? And we were the #1 Branson tractor dealer for years, and we sold hundreds and hundreds of them each year. That came at a cost, and we had to spend a lot of money on advertising. Versus when we took on Massey Ferguson later, we found we could sell a lot of Masseys, and we didn't have to market it as hard because people were already searching for that product. And Can-Am has spent billions building that brand over the years, and BRP has. And so it was a great line choice because just by adding it, even if you didn't spend a dime on marketing, people are already hitting their dealer locator. They're already Googling for it. And you can do the same thing if you brought in a line like a Toro or a Skag or an Exmark that's been around forever and a day. But I know dealers that kill it with a newer product line. I know dealers killing it with CF Moto, for recreational products. Dealers who are killing it with Spartan mowers. That's a fairly new entrant to the mower market. So it depends on your strategy and your appetite for brand building. But yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Yeah, and we've gotten a couple more questions that have come in. One is, what offers or sales are you seeing that dealers are making to drive revenue right now?
Yeah, I've definitely seen dealers pushing some of the deferred payment options. So no payments for 90 days. That's kind of nice from a cash flow standpoint. I wish I had data to back up and say this is the #1 promotion that's working. We're studying data, and so you may hear back from us if we can mine that out of the data. But I am seeing a lot of dealers pushing that. And I'm seeing that not just in outdoor power equipment and power sports, but in automotive as well. And if you don't have a lender that offers that, a few of them I'm going to drop. Synchrony. There are lenders that you have to use because that's who your equipment manufacturer or your brand uses for big ticket items. But Synchrony has a program where you can finance anything new or used if it's got a serial number, pretty much. Certainly power equipment, trailer, that kind of thing. And I've seen them running some of those programs for sure on the OEM programs. I haven't seen a Synchrony program in a while to see if they're running deferred payments on their just the standard. Used to be called the cutting edge program. I don't think they call it that anymore. Yard Card is another one that you can do special OEM programs or just standard stuff, and even finance parts and service through those guys. They're likely to do some of those. I think they're doing some of those deferred payment programs. Sheffield is to a lot of, basically all of power sports, trailer, and outdoor power equipment works with those guys. But I want to mention them anyway in case you're not working with them. Our finance team loved them, and we had a couple, usually 2 to 3 people. That's all they did was running credit apps and that kind of thing. And then sometimes what I'm seeing with some dealers is they're working with a local bank to put together a program. And with interest rates really, really low, I'm seeing now the return of 3.99% for 84 months financing, or 4.25% or 4.5% financing with nothing out of pocket for you as a dealer, and 0 down for the customer if they qualify. So there are programs out there. Some of those that may be more with your ag banks like Wells Fargo, DLL, Ag Direct. I'm seeing those, so I'll include those in the resource roundup. But yeah, finance related promos, I'm seeing that a lot. Hustler just dropped on their Dash 0 turn, which started around $2,300. They now have a model, I guess it's probably the little 34-inch, starting at $1,999. Riding mower type of price. And that's a stimulus check for people right now, and some people are still getting them. So I suspect that's going to go places. But what we are seeing is that we definitely are seeing a trend where people were spending $8,000 or $9,000 on a product. They're spending maybe $5,000 or $6,000, but they're still spending. So we're seeing people buy a little bit less than what they would have before. We've seen some of that, and dealers I've talked with have kind of confirmed that. So yeah, those are a few of the things that I've seen.
Okay, great. And then we'll take this one as the last question. What have you seen in regard to contactless payments, and how has COVID impacted the payment landscape for you?
Well, I don't know about you, but I like to touch a credit card machine as little as possible. Before the whole COVID thing, I was already like Adrian Monk from the TV show. So, you know, I already didn't like touching things that thousands of other people had touched, and people give me a hard time for being a germaphobe. So, you know, when the whole COVID thing happened, you know, I thought to myself, well, I've been preparing my whole life for this. But what I have seen is that, you know, and I think there's some changes around this that I think are positive. So there are some positive things coming out of this COVID thing. And I know there's a lot of negative. But I want to talk about, you know, I'm seeing merchants setting up their point of sale where they used to require you to touch an OK button or sign something. They're going to, you know, basically completely contactless. They're setting up Apple Pay. They're setting up Google Pay, Samsung Pay. And the point of these webinars is not to pitch any one brand or necessarily product or service or whatever, but I was a Charge It Pro customer, so I'm going to brag on them. They did not ask me to say any of this stuff. You know, they were really good with helping us to set it up where we could require as few points of contact as possible. And that was, you know, back when we were working with them in the last few years in my dealership. I've talked with them, and I know they're able to help you set up your machine where the customer doesn't have to touch anything. So, you know, they insert the card, that's it. And they also have the ability even to give you if you prefer to, maybe you text the customer a link and then they can just pay you online. They have the ability to give you that link that you can paste into your text tool for a payment page, and they can pay online. So versus just doing everything, some dealers and retailers I've talked with are saying, okay, we'll do everything, and then you know, you stay in your car, we'll bring the stuff out to you. You call us. Actually, the order would be call us and we'll give us your credit card number and we'll ring it up, and then we'll bring the stuff out to you in the car, kind of thing. And they're doing everything by the phone. Again, the phone's a bottleneck because if everybody's calling to see if you're open and are you curbside only and all of this stuff, well, then if you introduce payment by phone only, that's a challenge. And so I would encourage you, if you've got your showroom open, if you've got, or your store open, you've got people coming in, work with, if Charge It Pro and Gravity is your payment provider, or whoever's your payment provider, work with them to set up your machine so that you accept Apple Pay and Google Pay and Samsung Pay. I don't think that costs anything extra to run, or it doesn't be minuscule, and people want to do that. You know, and if not, you know, a lot of these cards now have got the little, looks like the little Wi-Fi symbol on the back. I better not show that, actually.
We have people everywhere taking screenshots of their
I
Zoom
know,
right
right?
now. Yeah. Lunch on Tim today.
That's right. But yeah, it's got the little Wi-Fi looking thing on the back. So it's near field, right? And you can just tap it near there. So all of that's totally possible. And I think the retailers that do that won't go back after this. I think a lot of them won't, because consumers love that. It's easy.
And just as context for everyone on the call, Charge It Pro, Gravity Payments, same company. The name is Gravity Payments now. So just, Tim, to wrap us up, what would be your 3 final takeaways to end this webinar and for people to make sure that they remember these things when they walk away today?
Yeah, you know, again, it sounds like old hat, the whole putting all your eggs in one basket expression, but really think about, are you offering non-discretionary products and services? You know, and it may be that your foray, if you're a Marina, and your foray into products, you know, might not first be that you go put $1 million worth of whole goods out all over your parking lot. It may be that you get into it first through small engine repair or some sort of a repair, that kind of thing. So if you're primarily carrying discretionary products and offering discretionary products and services, add non-discretionary. You know, consider adding you know, a product line that is going to sell, you know, even during a downturn, that kind of thing. And it may be that when times are great, maybe, the discretionary products, again, take over the majority of your sales. The idea of diversification is it's insurance. It's something that you can't control everything that goes on outside your business. You can't control the economic environment, but you can control the way that you respond and the products that you carry and some of the foot traffic that you bring in. You know, so I would say that's one thing, is definitely take a hard look at your product offering. You know, I would take a hard look at your marketing strategy. And the idea is take the next step. Maybe you've had a website for years and you're not sure how much, ROI you're getting from it, and or you're not sure about the quality of your leads or whatever. Either hire somebody who's a digital marketer or work with an agency that's what they do. That's their thing. Because they can help you take it to the next level. Maybe for you, your next step is, I'm going to add e-commerce to my site and I'm going to sell products, parts, or something else. And then finally, I would say, be easy to reach. If you're not texting, start texting. You can even get your own, a new phone number is, that people can text. If you don't have your landline set up to be texted, it's cheap to get, but a lot of texting services can text enable your own landline even. And get into texting if you're not doing it. Your customers, what will happen when you do that, when I text enabled my landline, a bunch of text messages poured through from people texting my number that was on Craigslist ads and a bunch of other places. They thought already we could text, and that was a couple of years ago. Be easy to reach, and you will stand out, and it will make a difference.
Great. That's a good way to wrap up. Well, thank you so much, Tim. Delighted to have you for this webinar today. Thanks to everybody for joining, and we'll be in touch with some follow-up materials similar to what Tim mentioned earlier on this call. You'll get a follow-up in the next couple of days that includes a recording of this entire session, as well as a brief recap of what we talked about.
Yeah, and I just want to show one last slide, and that is, if you're interested in getting some of the the floor plan companies, some of the different finance companies, I mentioned a couple of marketing agencies and tools. I'll put all that in a resource roundup. If you're interested in that, send me an email here. That comes straight to me on my phone, and I'll send that back to you here pretty soon.
Perfect. Great. Well, thanks again, Tim, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks everybody.